Look who's here. I'll give you a hint. Hall of Fame, Chicago Bears.
Sammy Sosa?
No, football. Coached the 1986
85
Bears to a Super Bowl victory.
Hey everybody, Jefferson Webster here. With the NFL returning, I wanted to take a moment to talk about Michael Keller Ditka Jr. and his history with video games. Let's get into it.
Now, this is going to be the hardest, most difficult thing you ever attempted in your entire life. But you know what? When it's over.
Get emotional.
When it's over.
When it's over.
You guys are going to be champions.
Champions!
By God, you're going to be champions. All right, everybody up. Come on, hands in.
Yeah.
Come on, everybody. Let's go out and kick some butt.
Here we go. On three. Let's have fun. 1, 2, 3. Let's have fun.
Let's have fun. What's that?
As a Bears fan, I'm obligated to love Mike Ditka.
Question is, now did God create the Bears and make them superior to all other teams, or is he simply a huge fan and Ditka made them superior to all other teams?
He's the only individual to participate in the last 2 Chicago Bears championships, once as a player in 1963 and again as the head coach in 1985. He's a polarizing figure, but he always has been entertaining nevertheless.
I've never been upset in my life. Get your mouth shut, you jerk.
To understand how video games and Coach Ditka cross paths, we need to go back to 1988. This is when the John Madden franchise was born. Objectively, these early versions of Madden on PC and consoles were nothing great. However, as we all know, they became formidable in the anticipation for each upcoming annual release.
Spare ourselves the sight of that edifice of shame.
Most football video games at the time were positioned more so for casual gamers, not pro football simulations like we're used to now. Seeing this as an opportunity in the market, Ditka and Accolade made their move.
There's no difference in this football game right there.
So in attempts to compete with the early Madden franchise in this space, a company called Accolade approached Ditka and released a PC game called Mike Ditka's Ultimate Football in 1991.
Accolade presents Mike Ditka's Ultimate Football.
The game was a decent PC game for the time. It featured single matches, playoffs, and complete seasons. It also included a practice mode, the ability to create your own plays, edit rosters, leagues, and create new ones. You can edit every player in the game except for the offensive and defensive linemen, which, as the game's manual explained, couldn't be altered because Mike Ditka doesn't remember a lineman's name. The game also featured digitized ref moves, fluid player animations. None of these features may seem impressive now, but they were extremely innovative and ambitious for the time. The gameplay and controls are quite basic, with no option to juke, spin, or stiff arm. What you see is what you get here.
Incomplete.
And it's apparent what it is.
That same year, the game was ported over to the Sega Genesis. Titled Mike Ditka's Power Football, the game was released without a license from Sega, making it one of 224 unlicensed games that worked for the Sega Genesis, which led to lawsuits back and forth between Sega and Accolade.
I have no thoughts about it.
Given the capabilities of a PC versus the Sega Genesis, there are some notable differences in graphics, features, and gameplay. However, it is essentially the same game. The game featured scouting reports from Mike Ditka, several angles to watch the action, new levels of customization, and in-game decision-making. The game uses multiple perspectives during play, from a standard top-down view to the behind-the-kicker view. The gameplay and graphics don't hold up today, but perhaps it was a bit too ambitious for its time.
Welcome you to Computer Bowl 93.
Strangely, in 1993, this happened. Yes, that's right, that's O.J. Simpson and Mike Ditka playing Madden football on the Sega Genesis. Crazy stuff.
I'm a hypocrite.
O.J. Simpson killed a couple of people.
Well, no surprise there. Technically, since he played in Buffalo, he'd be a New Yorker, right?
Yeah.
It had to be an accident.
Did you know there was a Mike Ditka NES football game? Well, there actually wasn't, but there was. Let me explain.
Mike Ditka's Big Play Football was intended to be a US NES title, however it was never released. Nintendo Power mentioned it in their Coming Soon section for almost an entire year, while other magazines from that era did not publish full reviews on it.
You're 100% right, but you're a pain in the butt.
So what happened?
We stink.
Let's go back to 1989 and talk about a Japanese Famicom game called Quarterback Scramble. Developed by Natsume, Accolade saw the game as an easy cash grab, so they picked up an endorsement from Ditka and away they went. It's unknown why this game was never released, but there are a few possible reasons. Some speculate that Accolade decided to focus on 16-bit games. However, it's more likely that they realized this is a bad game and likely would not offset their cost to have Mike Ditka's name on it. Since Accolade didn't create the game, they wouldn't take a big loss if they just buried it. In 2008, copies of the NES Mike Ditka version of the game were an exclusive release at the Age of Gamers Expo. At the time, it was the first complete-in-box released NES game since 1995. Fortunately, I was able to track down one of the 250 copies produced. The game is essentially the same as its Japanese counterpart, Quarterback Scramble, with the exceptions of the title screen, logos from the field, and most interestingly, a modified cheerleader graphic at halftime. Get this, both games originally had a Playboy bunny, complete with bow and tie, cuffs, and bunny ears. Weird.
Pat, what happened?
I think it's pretty obvious. Coach Ditka had his mind on more important things.
Released in 1995 for the Sega Saturn PC and 3DO, Mike Ditka stars as a football coach in Quarterback Attack with Mike Ditka.
Okay, Rook, there you get your shot. Nebbit here's out with a busted shoulder.
Go get him!
Developed by Digital Pictures, it's a single-player game using full-motion video where you play as a quarterback of a fictitious football team with Mike Ditka as your head coach. Different buttons on the controller correspond with receivers. In later levels of difficulty, you can actually choose where to throw the ball.
You lucky you got that one off. Next time, your hamburger.
Shut up.
A lot of these full-motion video games at the time really were received with mixed reviews. Some like it, some didn't. Personally, I found this game to be somewhat boring. I suppose it was innovative for the time. However, I had more fun trying to get Ditka to freak out on me. I think in this game here I threw 6 picks and he never once took me out of the game, but it was always funny to try to get a reaction from him.
We're completing less than 50%. You can do better than that, and you got a whole half to prove it. Interceptions are gonna kill us. Don't throw anymore.
Kid, that ain't the way you did it in college. Why don't you just hand him the ball next time? I got one word for you, kid. Score! This is great. Now I gotta explain this to the idiots in the media.
That's my fault.
The game was created with a $2 million budget, and filming of the full-motion video took approximately 2 weeks. Footage from the game was used in the movie Game Over, which might be one of the laziest film endeavors I've ever seen. Here's how they leverage the game footage in the film. Essentially, the plot is like this weird combination of The Matrix and the movie War Games, but if the script was written by a 10-year-old and they had a budget of $75,000. It was really, really bad. I mean, probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen. In addition to Quarterback Attack, there is a ton of other full-motion video game footage in this movie, and it's weird because all the video games are from the mid-90s, but this was a 2003 film. And this is no exaggeration. I think a quarter of the film's footage is from these video games. I guess Digital Pictures was just receiving checks and said, here, go make a crappy movie. I mean, who was this movie even for? Regardless, Mike Ditka was mentioned in the credits of the film. Not even Iron Mike Ditka and Yasmin Bleeth's low-cut shirt could salvage this one.
Either you're part of the solution or you're part of the problem. I've decided you're part of the problem.
So I'm going with the Giants.
And in a move no one was asking for, in 2016, Quarterback Attack was remastered for mobile and became available on the Google Play and iTunes app stores. It's the same game, just with improved frame rates. I must admit, the game does look better and becomes a part of the recent reissues from full-motion video games.
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Following these titles, Ditka would appear in other video games, such as All-Pro Football and ironically the Madden franchise. However, he would not officially endorse another video game. But who knows? Ditka's been known to lend his name to anything that offers a paycheck.
You gotta like the way Electric Avenue stomps the competition.
Well, guys, guys, that's it for now. Be safe out there. And if you subscribe to my channel, I'll send the next 2 subscribers one of these sweet Ditka hooded sweatshirts. See ya.
But you know something? You're my Ditka. My Ditka. My Ditka. My...